Hello guys, hope you're doing well today. Coming at you with the next excerpt of my first novel in a series, Black and White Odyssey of Eden, continuing where I left off, so let's have at this. If you can help even one person smile in a world destined for destruction, Thomas, then at least you can die with your honor intact, knowing you did everything in your power to help. Be there for her. As he said this, a faint smile cracked upon his face, and while his eyes remained bloodshot, no tears fell from them, as he had no tears left to cry. I guess I do have a way with words, don't I? He said to himself in a slow, hoarse voice, with an air of jest. Thomas heard those words ringing through his mind, mistaking them for his own. Were they? His frown turned over, and a faint smile cracked upon his face. His eyes began to turn bloodshot with tears, though none fell from his eyes, as he was a soldier. He did not believe in fairy tales, and even if he did, he had no tears left to cry. "Colonel," said the woman as she looked up, smiling. "Sarah," said Thomas. She turned to face him. "Treat this moment as if it were the last time you will ever see her, Thomas. You know these are the last days. You know you love her. Treat this moment as if it were the last time you will ever see him, Sarah. You know these are the last days. You know you love him." "How are the children?" asked Thomas. Sarah's smile erased from her face as quickly as she had turned to face him. The building they were in was full of children of various ages, orphaned through various circumstances. The state of unrest that was building across the globe led to riots in the streets of Philadelphia, as the poorest of the country steadily began to starve, dependent upon a government to provide them food that was no longer in existence. It was for this very reason that other countries had become so brazen, even attempting to reach the shores of the states. Temperatures were rising across the globe, though not from carbon dioxide, as an inept and malignant government would insist to the public, but from the nuclear bombs various countries were testing. They only increased in size and frequency, boiling the very air that they breathed, as if building up to a crescendo as countries sprinted towards their demise, completely aware of the end but powerless to stop it. It was a momentum that was insurmountable. "What is going on, Thomas? The children are pouring in from the streets. Many of them are missing limbs. We don't have the resources or the personnel. This was supposed to be an orphanage, not a child triage facility," she said quietly, as her voice quivered in sorrow. "Thomas, it's getting worse by the hour. I can't help them. The chemical weapon, it attacks only children. What kind of monster would do this?" she pleaded desperately. Many of those very children were lying about in the room in which they stood, some sleeping, others sedated. She slowly walked towards Thomas until she was no more than 2 feet in front of him, her head bowed as if urging to be consoled. Thomas slowly wrapped his arms around her, embracing her tightly, his eyes closing painfully. He remembered the thought that had run through his head only seconds ago. These children did nothing to deserve this. "You are the greatest woman I have ever met. Please don't beat yourself up." His voice became a whisper as he gently turned her head towards his so they could look at each other in the eyes. Heaven help us, Thomas thought to himself. "Tell her, Thomas. You know this is the last chance you will ever have. Is there any chance you would rather, or any place you would rather be, Sarah? You are in the arms of the only man you have ever known to have never given up, even now. Sarah, I need to tell you something." Her eyes smiled at him. "What?" she asked. He thought for a moment as he stared deeply into her eyes. For the briefest of moments, the world had stopped moving. He stood there, holding her, and all that existed was the two of them. What was it that she loved from him, or loved him for? He thought, as time was frozen for the two of them. What could she love him for? He had never heard those words from her mouth, but if he ever were to earn them, he thought, it would not be from him ever stopping. No, not yet. He could not stop moving. And that's this section. I'll come at you with the next one later. Love y'all. Peace.